So as Chris said, we are starting a new sermon series today called Practicing the Way. And I'm really excited. I've been looking at this material for a couple of months actually and doing reading. And so I'm really excited to be able to start this with you and think about what it means for us to practice Sabbath. But before we jump into that, I just want to think about this idea of practicing the way. What it means is that we learn how to practice the way of Jesus, the way that Jesus lived. Some people call these things spiritual practices. And I thought it might be useful just to understand why does this matter? What are we doing? And obviously this morning, in a few minutes after the sermon, not too long now, Peter, we're going to have a baptism. And baptism, when we think about following Jesus, it's a relationship, isn't it? And the way that I like to think about baptism, what I find helpful, is to compare it to a wedding. When you go to a wedding, typically the wedding day is not usually the first day that someone has begun a relationship. Often there's been a relationship that has existed with another person, sometimes for months, sometimes for years, sometimes for many years. And then comes this moment of the wedding day, and they have a ceremony. And in this ceremony, on the wedding day, the two people who stand up, and what they say is, from this day forward, my life is going to be different, because I'm in a relationship with a person that I love. And the relationship didn't begin on the wedding day, but the relationship symbolically takes a new phase in its journey. I'm no longer going to live the way a single person lives, hopefully, if you want your marriage to last for a little while. I'm going to live like a married person, and married people live differently than single people. As a single person, I can tell you, I know that is absolutely true. We live differently when we enter into that kind of a commitment and relationship, and we stand up in front of people that we know and we love, and just like at a baptism, we say, this is the person that I am now. For at least half the people, they might choose to even change their name. I'm no longer the same person. I'm a new person in a new relationship, and now I'm going to live in a new way. And so today we get to celebrate a baptism where we get to mark this a bit of a transition, a bit of a flag in the sand that says from this day forward, from henceforth, no matter what's happened before, this relationship now is entering into a new season. And then what happens, the wedding day is not the end of the relationship. It's not like, well, we've done it all now, so tick that off, nothing left to do. Hopefully not. The wedding is the beginning of a new season in that relationship where hopefully you grow in love and care. Maybe the butterflies change, maybe you're not nervous every time the phone rings and your partner calls, but the love that you have for each other changes, it deepens. Maybe you know better how to push each other's buttons perhaps, but that the relationship continues to grow. And hopefully we continue to invest in that, and we put into practice some things. Some people, my parents used to go on date nights every Friday. They'd drop us off at a church group, and the kids would go and, free babysitting, send them to church for an activity. And my parents would go out, and I was always jealous because they went and got ice cream or something, and they dated each other. My parents have been married for nearly 45 years, and they still go on dates. It's a practice that they have. We're not going to stop doing this because we're investing in this relationship. It matters. And in the same way, the day you get baptized or the day you trust in Jesus, that's not like, well, tick the box, I'm a Christian now, there's nothing left to do. That's the beginning. That's the moment when we say, now I'm going to choose to live in a different way because I want to grow in this relationship that I've committed to with Jesus. And in order to do that, I want to put into practice some things that are going to make this relationship better and stronger. And so that's what practicing spiritual practices, that's what it is. It's about learning to live in the way that Jesus lived. It's about learning to put into practice those things so that I can become more like Jesus, so that I can begin to do the things that Jesus did. Now, some of you know that I do like to run. I've committed, 2023 is my year. My injuries are going to be behind me. I am going to do a marathon this year. You've all heard it, but I still have 12 months to accomplish it. But I have to tell you, anybody who wants to run a marathon does not turn up on the day of the race, having never run before, with brand new shoes and expect to finish. You don't do that. What do? You have to practice. You do some training, and you start, I started a couple of years ago with run 30 seconds, walk 30 seconds, run 60 seconds. Some of you are like, yes, I could, but you start wherever you are, and you build up, and you build up, and you build up, and you bring these practices. But the other thing I can tell you is that reading a book about running, and I've read a few, there's one particular, if you want to look for a very Born to Run, even if you don't like running, fantastic story. But I can tell you, I read that book. I could not then go out tomorrow and run a marathon just because I read a book about somebody who could run a really fast marathon. It's not about information, it's about formation. Coming to church and listening to these sermons is not going to help you to practice Sabbath. It's not going to turn you into a Christian who's like Jesus. The only thing that will make you more like Jesus is allowing your life to be shaped, to be formed by doing something. And so this sermon series, Ian and I will be preaching back and forth over these sermons. And we're not just going to give you information. At every single week, we're going to give you something not to replace, but to add on, to build, if you will. In America, we have these things called Build-A-Bear, and you go and you like make your own teddy bear and you stuff it with things. And this is a little bit like a Build-A-Bear. You're going to build a Sabbath. What does it look like to reconstruct our view of what it means to do Sabbath in the way that Jesus would have done it? How do we build this into our lives? And we're going to take it in small steps. Run for 30 seconds, walk for 30 seconds, little bits at a time. And as Chris said, as we build this together, hopefully at the end of our, beginning of February, we'll have begun to form a practice. You're not going to like finish it in 5 weeks and say, well, that's done. I've done Sabbath never. It's the beginning of a new way of doing Sabbath, learning to be like Jesus. Now this word Sabbath, we're going to talk about 4 different weeks, and we're going to learn 4 different things that Sabbath means. It means stop, rest, delight, and worship. These are the 4 things we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. Stop, rest, delight, and worship. So today we're going to begin by thinking about Sabbath as stopping. It's a simple concept, so we won't be here long because we all know what it means to stop, I think. So I want to begin with a passage, and I want to read this for you. Oh, I've made a critical error because I wanted to read it in the Message version, which is on my phone, which is recording. Maybe you could find Matthew chapter 11, Chris, in the Message version. I'm going to read it from the NIV first. Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30. And I'm going to read it slowly because I really genuinely believe that Jesus wants to speak to us by the power of the Holy Spirit in his word. And this passage of scripture is an invitation from Jesus to all of us. So I just want you to listen and allow the Holy Spirit to speak to you. I'm going to read it first in the NIV because that's probably familiar, and then I'm going to read it in the Message version. Matthew chapter 11, beginning in verse 28, this is what Jesus says. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Now I'm going to read it again in the Message version, which is a different translation, but I just want you to listen. Again, listen carefully. Allow the Holy Spirit to speak this invitation, because we're being invited in to enjoy the Sabbath. So Matthew chapter 11 again, beginning in sentence 28. Are you tired? Are you worn out? Burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. This is the invitation that Jesus gives us, that Sabbath was created as a gift for us. In Genesis chapter 2, we have a description at the very beginning, right, of creation. And in Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 3, this is what God says to us. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. In the Hebrew there, verse 2, it says that he'd finished his work and on the seventh day he rested. In the Hebrew, that word is Shabbat. That's what we translate as Sabbath. On the seventh day, God Sabbathed. He stopped. The most basic meaning of the word Sabbath is to stop. Now it means a nuance, a variety of things, but the most basic meaning is to stop. That on the seventh day, God finished his work and he rested, he Sabbathed, he stopped. He stopped working. Now you see, Chrissy, that's quite basic. I understand what it means to stop, but I'm not sure that we do, because if you flip over to Exodus chapter 20, this will be the last passage we look at. We won't be flipping around. Exodus chapter 20, you might recognize these if you skimmed through. They're the 10 Commandments. You know, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not, you know, all those. And in sentence number 8 of Exodus chapter 20, the command of one of those 10 commandments that God gives us is, remember the Sabbath day, remember the Shabbat, by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you, nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested, he Shabbated, he stopped on the seventh day. Therefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Now, I don't know about you, but I think it's interesting that in a list of things that God says you should not or you should do, and he says, don't steal, don't kill, don't, covet your neighbor's wife, don't, all these things, and somehow in this list of, quite extreme things that we'd say, no, definitely, you should not do that. In the midst of that, God felt it was necessary to say, don't work every day of the week. And you think, well, why does that need to be listed in the same list of don't kill and don't steal? And yet somehow it seems that God understood something about human nature, that actually there would be this propensity to say, no, I need to keep going. Now we think, well, we stopped working. Some of you are retired, and so I stopped working years ago. I can't be fooled. I have learned that retired people are busier than anybody else. Some of us will say, well, no, I have a weekend. Yeah, but we fill our weekend with work. We fill our weekend with the house needs tidying and there's 47 errands to run and I've got the shopping to do and I've got and we work every day of the week. And some of you might be like me, not all of you, some of you are healthier than me, but some of you will be like me, and you find that when you do rest, you feel guilty because you're thinking of, I should have done an extra load of washing. I should have cleaned the loo. I really have do you ever have, I used to tease my mom that her housekeeping philosophy was neat piles. And now as an adult, I have neat piles. I have like a stack of papers and I'm like, I need to sort through that. Some of those need filing. I probably need to respond to one or two, And I look at it and I think I'm resting and I'm looking at it thinking, I really should go through that paperwork that's sitting on my desk. I really should. And yet God said, his command to us is God himself stopped working. And if God says that the rationale is because God stopped working, we too then are commanded to stop working. And it's as important as the command to not kill, not steal, not covet things that don't belong to us. In that same list, God says it is as important to who you are as a person, to your soul, to your spiritual formation, That if we have a hope of having a relationship, it's going to require us to stop. You say, Chrissy, this is very basic. Well, there's other things involved in Sabbath, but I told you, we're just running for 30 seconds and walking for 30 seconds. What we put into the Sabbath is going to come in future weeks. But today, what we need to consider is what is required of us to actually stop. In any relationship, you know, I have friends, so some of you will know, if you don't, you're about to know, I was very ill over Christmas. Like, I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks. So I spent Christmas Day, like, lying in the bed, thinking about, it wasn't my best Christmas, but I had friends, I had all sorts of plans. I was going to go up and down and all over visiting people. But I had friends who I was supposed to see around Christmas, and so they came yesterday. They said, well, we'll come and we'll have a Chrissy Christmas on Saturday. And I said, that's fantastic. Now, we all know that when someone comes to visit, we have to stop what we're doing, right? Life doesn't continue as normal. Could you imagine if my friends said, we're coming, Chrissy, we'll be there around lunchtime. And I said, fantastic. And what if they turned up and I said, oh, it's so good to see you. You can just wait in the living room. I'll make you a cup of tea. I've just got to run and do the shopping. I've got some washing to fold. I've still got to finish cleaning the bathroom. And I've got one quick 2-hour meeting that I scheduled. But as soon as I get done, I've got an email I need to answer. But once I get through this list, I'll be really happy to hang out. I'd love to spend time with you. Ooh, we just wouldn't do that. You'd say, Chrissy, like, your friends wouldn't even come if that's what you did. They wouldn't come. But how often do we say to God, God, absolutely, I want to spend time with you. I've just got a couple of emails to finish. I've got, some things I need to do around the house. I haven't got the shopping done today. So God, I promise I'll squeeze it in. I just need to get a few things done. And so we squeeze in, or we say, God, I've got an hour, as long as church doesn't overrun, because, I've got the Sunday dinner, the oven's going to start, right at, 11:35. And so, church can't go late, and, but I'll squeeze in a quick hour, but then I've got some other things to do. The relationship doesn't flourish, does it? If you had a friend who treated you that way and said, hey, I'd love to spend time with you. What about your spouse? Because the relationship with Jesus isn't just a friend. It's the equivalent of a wedding. What if your partner said, could we have a date night one time a week? And you said, well, I'll see if I can pencil you in, but I've got quite a big to-do list this weekend, so I'm not sure there's time for you. Or yeah, absolutely. These days, I don't know, I don't go out to dinner often, but occasionally if you go out to dinner, you ever sat in a restaurant and looked over and there's 2 or 3 or 4 people sitting at the table and they're all going like this? It's like they're not even with each other, just... How often do we do that to God? Yeah, God, I'm having a Sabbath, also called Netflix binging. God, I'm having a Sabbath and I'm on level 547 of Candy Crush and I'm crushing it. Am I with God? Match the fruit or whatever it is, Am I with God? When my TV's judging me, are you still watching? Have you ever watched long enough? When you're ill, that's about a duvet day, right? Like, feel so judged. You're like, is this from the Holy Spirit? Are you still watching? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I'm too ill to move. I'm still watching. Are we with God? Or does God say to us, I have given you the Sabbath so that you can stop, so that you can be still. Now that doesn't mean that we need to carve out time because we're going to be in silence and meditation and we're going to read the Bible for 4 hours on a Sabbath. You'll hear what's to come, but remember those words: stop, rest, delight, worship. The Sabbath is a gift for us, and it is meant to be filled with things that we love and enjoy and that point us and grow us in relationship with Jesus. But none of those good things, it does me no good to stand up here and preach a sermon and tell you you've got to put all these things in if we've not first stopped. It's a simple message. There's not lots to figure out this week, and I'm not going to give you more than that, partially because we need to do a baptism, but also because I genuinely want, no matter what you do, if all you do is come to church for the next few Sundays, I want to give you enough that you could take and put something into action. that each week, something small, run for 30 seconds, walk for 30 seconds. That's simple. And I'm hoping some of you will not be convinced this week, and 2 or 3 weeks in, once we've gotten a little further, you'll think, oh, I might want to try this. But I'm hoping some of you might trust me. I'm asking you to trust me. I've been around for a few years. I'm not the typical American. I've taken on some British tendencies, so maybe you can trust me. I'm asking you to trust me and just try it. Take a few steps and just see. And I'm trying it. I have not ever done this, but I'm reading a book that you're all invited to read, and anything that I'm asking you to do, I am doing also for the first time. But I'm asking you to try it. So here's the step that I want you to consider taking for this week. I want you first, it's what Chris said, I want you first to think about who could be in my Sabbath community. Who could I ask? I've asked Mark and Ali Datson, so now you know I've held myself accountable. Last week, I said to Ali, would you and Mark be interested in doing this Sabbath thing with me? We can meet up and chat about what it means. And I said, yeah, all right. Let's see, sure, give it a go. And what that means is you find another family, another person, another couple, it could be two, you know, the bigger it is, the harder it is to coordinate. I am not asking you to find people that you're going to spend the entirety of your Sabbath with, to give you just a little window in, but you'll get more of this. It'll probably look like, so for Mark and Ali and I, our Sabbath window, so you have to get together with whoever you're going to do it with and choose. What is our window of time? Now, ideally, it would be 24 hours, but maybe you're not at 24 hours. Maybe the window of time you can commit is 4 hours, or 8 hours, or 12 hours, but you choose your window and you say, this is our Sabbath. And we're going to choose it together. Mark, Ali, and I chose Friday night at 5 p.m. until Saturday at 5 p.m. because Sunday's a work day for me. Well, I would encourage, if I were you in the congregation, what I would encourage is maybe a Saturday evening to a Sunday evening. And the idea is with your Sabbath community, you might get together. And so for Mark and Ali and I, that'll be this coming Friday, get together, and we're going to have a meal. We're going to make food we really like. We're going to have pudding because it's Sabbath and you delight. We've already agreed I'm going to walk to their house so we can share a bottle of wine or something that we like because it's Sabbath and it's a gift. And we're going to begin this space in community. We're going to begin it together. We're going to begin it sharing joy and delight and fellowship. And there could be a prayer, there could be a worship song. We might light a candle to mark the moment. It's meant to be creating a space that every week you look forward to. I can't wait. Now it could be for some of you, breakfast on Saturday morning is better, or lunch on a Sunday after church is better. Doesn't mean that Mark and Ali and I are going to spend the entirety of all Friday and all Saturday together. We're going to just meet as a space to begin. Now doing it on a Saturday would be ideal because you kick it off on Saturday, then you come into Sunday morning rested, excited, anticipating a time of worship, again in community. And for some of you, you might go home and have a Sunday dinner. Man, what a beautiful space. And there's no washing up to do other than, if you need to do a few dishes. There's no laundry. There's no to-do list for a few hours. No shopping trips. We work it out to do it around other times. We just stop. So that's my challenge for you this week. That's all you need to do. Ask someone, or if you think 2 families or 3 families, if you're in a small group and you're going to do this, watch the videos in your small group, but pair up in 2s or 3s and say, would you be in a Sabbath community? And you're all in here together, so you can go, well, this sounds weird, but it's all right. You're all asking each other. You've all been here. Will you be in a Sabbath community? And then meet up and set a time. And if you're willing, even if you're not in a small group, if you send me a message, I'll send you a video, 20 or 30 minutes, a few little discussion questions that you could watch together and help you to think more about what we're discussing. That's the first step. There's more to put into your Sabbath. There's more to do, but we're just going to take it one step at a time. So all you have to do this week, and I just keep saying it trust me, give it a try. Would you join me? Set your time, whatever that is. If your Sabbath is just dinner on a Saturday evening, and that's all we can manage for our family right now, fine. It's intentional, it's on purpose. Jesus, I'm going to stop and I'm going to be with you. We want to not just have information. You will not begin practicing Sabbath just by coming and listening to me talk about it. You will begin practicing Sabbath and you allow yourself to be formed and changed. And so this week our goal is to find a window of time, a community of people who will join us, and define and say, this is when we're stopping. We don't know yet exactly. You can put into it whatever you want to right now. But as the weeks go, we'll discover what would be good to put into that time. Johnny's just checked the water temperature. So we'll be in good shape. So I'm going to close this in a prayer. But I'm going to read this passage. Can you open that for me again? Sorry. I'm going to read this passage again that we started with from Matthew chapter 11. I'll read it in the Message version. But I just want you to close your eyes. This is the invitation that we're being invited to by Jesus. So I'm going to read this to us again, and then I'll pray. And then we'll have a song of worship. Are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this invitation. I thank you for the gift of Sabbath. And I recognize as beautiful of a gift as it is for some of us, we feel anxious and uncomfortable. We're thinking of all the things we have to do and how could we possibly fit it in. And yet, God, I trust you that you've said to us, if we stop, there's more than enough time. There is time. 6 days is enough. So God, I just pray that your Spirit would communicate that invitation to our hearts in a way that we can hear, that we sense the longing to come away, to put down the things that are heavy, to put down the things that are stressful and busy and overwhelming, and just stop. Give us the courage to step out, to try something new, and to trust you when you've said that living your way is the best way for us to live as humans. Give us the courage to live the way that Jesus did, to allow ourselves to be formed by the way of Jesus. I ask this in your precious name. Amen.